right. Hollywood Stories posthumous interviews is coming to you live right now. I'm your host, Nick Romancy, and here with me today, the incomparable Rosalind Franklin. Oh, Miss Franklin, thank you so much for being here. Such an honor.
Well, Nick, you summoned me here under the false pretense that I was receiving a posthumous Nobel Prize, and then you bound my soul within this salt circle. So really, what choice did I have?
Well, I promise we're only going to have just a couple of questions and I'll let you on your way. In your own words, who is Rosalind Franklin?
Well, I was a chemist
Mm-hmm.
and a crystallographer.
Uh-huh.
I worked with coal molecules and viruses and yes, DNA.
And where did most of your work take place?
Well, I worked at several colleges across Britain, but I think what you're really concerned about is my work at King's College in London.
Uh-huh. Tell me about that. What was it that you and your team were trying to accomplish?
Well, we wanted to determine the structure of DNA. Now, as you may or may not know, molecules do not like to stay still. And so crystallographers turn molecules into their crystal forms. And we use a special machine to fire X-rays at these crystals, and the scatters that they cause, well, we can take pictures of those.
What was your role, particularly, in that project?
Well, I took the pictures. I ran the machines. I picked up the messes from my less competent male coworkers.
Are there any particular photographs that you are proud of?
Photograph 51 is probably the best result that I had in my time at King's.
Actually, I have a copy of photograph 51 right here for you. We take a look at that.
What? Well, yes, this is photograph 51. Can you see it? Yes. So, quite. This was possibly the world's first clear look at the shape of the DNA molecule, which, well, it sort of just looks like an X here, but some friends of mine figured out it was really more of a helix.
And that commentary would indicate that you did not do this work alone. Can you tell me who else worked with you on DNA?
Yes, I had a laboratory associate, Mr. Maurice Wilkins, who thought of me as more of a secretary, but we straightened that out. Mr. Wilkins is the type of man who couldn't abide a woman being in the room unless she was taking his notes for him. The man couldn't even properly humidify his samples.
Did you have any competitors?
Mm-hmm. Ah, yes. Mr. James Watson and Mr. Francis Crick. You may have read about how they solved all of chemistry's problems with Tinker Toys and won a Nobel Prize for it in 1962, along with, for God knows what reason, Mr. Wilkins. Of course, I was dead by then.
We've got this book here, and I've actually marked a passage that you might be particularly interested in.
Oh, Helix. A personal account of the discovery of the structure of DNA by James D. Watson. This ought to be good. Rosie, as we called her from a distance, Rosie, claimed that she had been given DNA for her own problem and would not think of herself as Maurice's assistant. Damn right. Mere inspection suggested that she would not easily bend. By choice, she did not emphasize her feminine qualities. Well, that's just rude. There was never lipstick to contrast with her straight black hair, while at the age of 31, her dresses showed all the imagination of English blue-stocking adolescents. Clearly, Rosie had to go, or be put in her place. The former was obviously preferable because, given her belligerent moods, it would be very difficult for Maurice to maintain a dominant position that would allow him to think unhindered about DNA. What is this? If she could only keep her emotions under control, there would be a good chance that she could really help him. The real problem, then, was Rosie. The thought could not be avoided that the best home for a feminist was in another person's lab. I can't believe he called me a feminist.
I know you didn't know what to expect.
You know, he wouldn't have gotten that Nobel Prize if Mr. Wilkins hadn't shown him photograph 51 without my permission or knowledge.
It's true. And now, can you tell us just a little bit about the impact that your project has had on the scientific community?
Well, I'm sure I don't know. I've been dead since 1950 whatever. But I've heard whispers that modern genetic engineering is really quite something, so...
How do you feel about being denied credit during your lifetime for all this hard work on DNA? Do you think that history has vindicated you?
Well, Nick, let me put it this way. James Watson clearly needed to be famous. You know, writes a best-selling book about his brave foray into the vast frontier of this glamorous, unsolvable problem of DNA. I just wanted to work in peace. I wanted to gather my data in my own laboratory and be taken seriously. I don't care about a prize. What is the Nobel Prize to a dead woman?
Thankfully, you were taken seriously. Your work's impact has definitely been recognized, and we can't thank you enough for being here with us today. And
I can go now.
Yes.
Thank God.